The On the Level Talk Show.
You're tuned to On a Level with Ankobia. This is Muta Baruka Irie.
Get ready for some of the hottest talk on radio. The On a Level Talk Show is on the air. Let your voice be heard. The On a Level Talk Show addresses issues that matter to you.
Ankobia with On a Level.
Why? I have to show you a start. When I down my yard now, that's one thing I want to listen to, you know. And I Ankobia. I never hear nothing so educational. I never hear nothing so controversial. I never hear nothing so positive. Until I buck up on the dial. 98.7. Long time sister to, you know. Ankobia. I run the place with the artist talk show runner right now.
I said the wicked man will have to fall, and all the righteous man will have to stand tall. And the wrong man.
Hold on. How can I be a traitor and sell out to my own everything in my own culture? Then, you know, me I say I would need to hang by my tongue. So you understand now. So the Chinaman bow to Buddha, and the Indian bow to the cow, and the white man bow to Jesus. Where is the black man, God, now? You understand? Black philosophy, black upliftment, black curriculum. Where history and prophecy is concerned, that is my witness.
Yes, welcome to the On a Level Talk Show with me, Ankobia, here for another week of lively, informative, and hopefully educational discussion. Hope you've had a very, very nice day. I know it's been wet and the sky is so grey. I didn't even see one cloud today. Everything is just grey. But still, I hope we can do something to lively up your evening. Now, I say we because I have a very special, I'm not going to call him a guest anymore, a very special friend of mine in the studio today, Brother Pilot. Good evening, sir.
Good evening to you, Sister Ankobia. And once again, it's great to be back in the studio with your good self.
Okay, it's lovely to have you here. I'm glad you could make it. I know you've been listening to some of the series with Walter Williams.
It's been really enlightening. And, you know, somebody who's coming from a totally different angle. Some may agree with what he has to say, others may not. But that's for people to actually make their own decisions.
Yes, most certainly. And of course, the phone lines are open for you to call in and to put any questions you want to Professor Walter Williams. And I just wanted you to bear in mind that I have tried my utmost to make this series of shows as balanced as possible. I've gone to King's College and I've asked for the Christian scholars to come forward to challenge some of what Walter Williams is saying. I've gone to Birmingham Christian College and I've asked them to come forward. And of course, people are busy, so they're not hiding. It's just a clash of timetables. They are not able to come forward. I didn't want any Christian, so to speak, trying to debate with Walter Williams. I wanted the scholars, those who've studied the history. I always think those are the best persons to go for, because I've noticed from listening to the series, the public are struggling because most people, when they deal with their religion, they don't deal with the facts and the history of where it's coming from. As one caller said last week, you know, he's dealing with his relationship with Jesus. And I think that's where it's at for most members of the public. So I thought, okay, let me try and, you know, get some balance here. But I did call them scholars, but for whatever reason, they can't make it. And some of them have asked me to reschedule the debate so they could have it, but that's not going to be possible. But that's how it goes, all right? So I'm trying my best to try and make it.
Well, I certainly know you are trying to actually initiate a balanced debate and
a mature discussion.
Well, that's very important as well.
Yes. Okay, let's welcome our guest tonight, Walter Williams. Hotep.
Mayat Hotep, brothers and sisters there.
How you doing?
I'm doing fine as usual. Great. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, you know. Very well on this very wet day. What's the weather like in Chicago?
The weather's cold, but the sun is out.
I call it the Windy City, don't they,
right,
Chicago?
Right. Windy City means it's cold winds blowing this time of month. Yeah, this is it.
Okay, so we're glad you can join us once again. But in the first part of the show, we want to touch upon some aspects of ancient Egypt. Now, I think it's fair to say, Walter Williams, that perhaps you are one of the most controversial scholars on the planet.
Good. I'm glad of that. And I heard you mention, Ankobia, that you tried to get some type of theologian,
yes,
whatever the case may be, to come on and maybe give a little balance of something like that. We can have a little discussion / debater, if you want to call it that, which I welcome that. And like I mentioned before, and I want to reiterate that I have a $5,000 award to give to anybody of any race, creed, or color, including the Pope, that can repudiate history and myself when history is saying that there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form of any race, creed, or color by the name of Jesus Christ. And the same thing with the Prophet Muhammad, and the same thing with the characters of Judaism, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Sarah, Gideon, Esau, David, Solomon, Joshua, and don't stop there, all the biblical characters. So if you can find anybody of any race, creed, or color, I don't care who they are, what background that they have, they want to come on and they want to have a debated discussion on it, then fine, I'll be glad to meet that challenge.
Okay, now $5,000, folks. That's about £3,000.
I would like to ask what the actual test points are here, because a lot of this can get couched in language. You were saying, Walter?
Yeah, the discipline that I use is history.
Yes.
I don't use any traditional religious theology. And that's the difference, like between oil and water. Oil and water don't mix.
True.
Human history.
Immiscible liquids.
Yes, that's why I didn't go for those who dealt with theology per se. I wanted those biblical historians. Those are the persons I went for.
It's okay, fine, bring them on.
So what you have to do, dig up a grave that says that this is where Jesus Christ was buried or something like that?
No, you have to get some historical facts that a created creature by the name of the Jesus the Christ walked this earth. You got to have, using the discipline of history to do that. You can't come to me and tell me, I believe this, I have faith in this, the Bible said this. You can't do that. That's no historical proof. See, because the Bible is nothing but allegories and metaphors and fiction and mythology. So you can't use that as any foundational points of view.
Okay, so let's move on with our first point of our discussion tonight then. Of course, that offer stands. £3,000 is yours if you can prove that any of the biblical characters, Jesus, the Prophet Muhammad, Abraham, etc., if you believe they existed and you can prove using historical data that they existed, then £3,000 is yours. That's what Professor Walter Williams is saying on the line. Now, let's first start by looking at ancient Egypt, because I know you not only have issues with Christianity and Islam and Judaism, you also have issues with some of the scholarship that's been done on ancient Egypt.
Correct.
Okay. You say the hieroglyphs have never been deciphered. I know we had a caller last week. She asked you about the 42 statements of truth, and you had issues with that. Let's try and get some understanding here before we go further about your views on ancient Egypt, so we can get a whole picture of where you're coming from.
Okay, first you have to understand that the ancient Egyptians are Africans, living in the continent of Africa, created the world's first and oldest civilization. They were used as human instruments by the universe to bring forth all of civilization for all of humanity. They were the only literate people on planet Earth during the time of antiquity. The word antiquity means ancient times. I said that to say this, is that they created what is known as 3 forms of written communication. One is the meta-nature hieroglyphics, which are pictorial symbols, and 2, the hieratic phonetic alphabetical system. That's the one that's being used today. Now, the hieroglyphics or the meta-nature hieroglyphics have never been deciphered. This is my stance. It is in my book, written in my book.
What's your proof for this? What's your proof that the hieroglyphs have never been deciphered, considering we have many European and African-centered scholars who claim that they have been able to read the hieroglyphs? What's your proof? Where's your evidence?
See, the evidence is in common sense.
No, I don't want common sense. I want some factual evidence. I want some factual evidence.
I'm going to give it to you.
Because when people have been coming on with common sense, you've been saying, no, I want factual evidence.
Okay, I'm going to give you factual evidence. But you have to use your common sense after I give it to you. Then, plus, I put it in writing. You have my book, The Historical Origin of Christianity?
Yes, I do, right in front of me.
Okay, turn to page 146.
Okay, I've seen the example, actually, and I know the example that you're going to talk about.
Okay.
Yes.
You got it?
I'm here.
Okay, now
in the appendix.
You mentioned that the Europeans and the African scholars are reading the hieroglyphics. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, you cannot read hieroglyphics. In order to read anything, you have to put an alphabet to it. You cannot put an alphabet to a symbol. A symbol, you can only explain a symbol if you know the meaning of the symbol. You cannot read a symbol. It's like when you get your driver's license and you took a test for that. You was tested in 3 things: eyesight, rules of the road, and symbols. When you got to the symbols part, they didn't ask you to put an alphabet to the symbol. They asked you to explain the symbol. What does this symbol mean? So therefore, if you can't explain the symbol, then you failed the test.
But these scholars are saying that they've been able to decipher what these symbols mean. Are you telling me that Ben Jacquemin, John Henry Clark, Sheikh Anta Diop,
Correct.
Ashwakwezi, that they've all got this wrong.
Yes, Theophilus.
Ra and Nefermen, they've all got this wrong.
Jacob Carruthers, all of them.
And which European scholars have got it wrong?
I've been to the University of Chicago, and I talked to Peter Piccioni, who was teaching a hieroglyphic class. I've talked to Frank Yorko. In fact, I was in Frank Yorko's class. I only took 2 classes. I couldn't take it anymore because something came over me that this is wrong. See, you cannot put an alphabet to a symbol. That's very simple. Then I understand about these different African scholars, but they are following what the Europeans are saying.
No. I know Ben Jokinen. I've spoken to Ashwakwezi. In fact, he's going to be on my show this Wednesday.
Okay.
They've gone down to Egypt. They've done the actual field research. They've been doing it for the last 30, 20 years. They're not just sitting there reading and regurgitating what Europeans write. Have you gone down to Egypt and done any field research yourself?
I have been to Egypt, but here's what
But have you done any field research?
I don't have to do field research in Egypt. That doesn't make you a scholar because you went to Egypt and studied the monuments and the temples and things like that. That doesn't make you a scholar. I'm telling you now, can you take a pictorial symbol and put an alphabet to it?
But it's not for me to do that. It's for the scholars. It's for the scholars to do that, Professor.
I'm telling you, I challenge the scholars. They don't have no problems with me. They have a problem with me because I've taken away their scholarship in that field, in that particular.
But where's the evidence? You have scholars who have worked so hard to set a foundation for our people to say, this is your history, this is yours. You now come along and say everybody, including all the top Europeans, Egyptologists and the Arabs, they've all got it wrong. Me, one, Walter Williams, I, one, stand alone. I have it correct.
Listen, Ancobia.
I'm listening.
I go to European scholars. University of Chicago, Peter Piccioni. I sent one of my students over there and to take his hieroglyphic class. My student has got the 12 courses on tape, and he asked Peter Piccioni, said, Dr. Piccioni, has the hieroglyphics ever been deciphered? He says no. Okay? And he gave the reasons why. I got that on tape. Now, number 2, I asked Frank Yorko the same thing. They all said no. And then if you read my book, there's a...
they both said no, you mean?
Yes,
yeah.
Yes, they both said no.
The 2 of them, yeah.
Okay, and then you read my book, Carol Andrews, who teaches at London University, there in London. You should go and see her. Her name is Carol Andrews. She wrote a book called The Rosetta Stone for the British Museum, and I put her quote in there from her book saying that the hieroglyphics have never been deciphered. You have to go beyond all of that. You have to go and study why they're saying that, okay? And then use your common sense is what I'm trying to say. All you do is think, like I did. And if I drew a symbol right now, if you use your imagination, drawing a symbol, I'm going to draw a symbol right now. I'm going to put it up to the telephone and say, Ancobia, tell me the meaning of this symbol. What would you have to say?
I don't know the meaning of the symbol. I don't know what it is that you've actually drawn. So you have to tell me.
Walter.
Wait, I'm getting the point.
Okay.
Who would you have to ask, sister? Who?
You.
Right.
So, for example, then, let me give you an example. Sometimes I say to people, Hotep. Now, I understand the word Hotep to mean peace.
Correct.
Now, you then say, no, it should be Ma'atotep. So what are you then using to decipher that it should be Ma'atotep? Where are you getting that from?
Okay, listen to this. You're saying if the hieroglyphics have never been deciphered, where am I getting the word Ma'at? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Ma'atotep,
okay.
Yes.
Okay, listen carefully now. Ma'at is a word and not a symbol. That's the answer.
Okay, so Hotep is not a symbol, it's a word.
That's all it is.
Okay, so the Egyptians also wrote words that we can't understand.
Well, you have to show me the documentation where they've written words.
No, but I'm saying, so you're saying on one hand, they have the hieroglyphs, which in your words you say have never been deciphered, but then you're saying they also have alphabetical words which can be deciphered.
You know why? This is a 2-part question you asked me. You know why that the hieroglyphics has never been deciphered, Ancobia?
Mm-hmm.
You know why? You have to ask the ancient Egyptians who drew those symbols what he or she meant for them to be.
Yeah, you're telling me that the Greeks who were around at the time and all these other cultures who were around at the time who also had their symbols as well, that when they come into contact with the ancient Egyptians, they weren't able to decipher?
The Greeks had no alphabet to write with. They never had any institutions because they never had a writing system. They came into Egypt. They had nothing with them but themselves. They had no schools, no sacred temples, no society of literacy. Listen, Ancobia, the ancient Egyptians, your ancestors, our ancestors, those Africans living over in the continent of Africa during the time of antiquity was the only literate people on planet Earth.
Okay.
Because they created those three forms of writing. And they created an alphabet to write with, the alphabet that we use today. And whoever creates the alphabet first, that alphabet can only be created one time. And that's
But the Greeks studied with the ancient Egyptians, didn't they?
What was that?
The Greeks studied with the ancient Egyptians.
No, that's wrong.
Okay.
George M. James, Stolen Legacy, gave you wrong information. They did not study with the ancient Egyptians. They studied in the Hagia Sophia, the world's first Christian institution, and the world's first university for the Europeans. That was in the 6th century. But there was only a hand-picked few that did that, okay? There was no educational system throughout occupation of ancient Egypt with the Greeks, okay?
So let's get this clear for our listeners. So you're saying that all of the African-centered scholars, are you saying that they've got the entire history of Egypt wrong, or just their understanding of the hieroglyphs?
I'm going to say they got the whole understanding of ancient Egyptian civilization wrong. No, I'm not saying that.
Yes.
I'm saying that the hieroglyphics, if you read in my book, the appendix section, read that section and then study it. Don't read it just one time. You go back and study it. Because I have a lot of information in there to tell you why the Meta-Netra hieroglyphics has never been deciphered. Okay? And like I said before, and it's so simple that any person, all you have to do is think. And just read what I've got to say in there, and just think about it.
Well, I would really love to see you debate this. I really would, with some Egyptologists.
Professor Williams.
There's no such thing as an Egyptologist.
Professor Williams, are you saying? I mean, I'm trying to get this conversation. Are we saying that the symbols or the hieroglyphic writings were within the beholder of those symbols, the individuals who created those symbols? And therefore, the meaning is left with those individuals who are now long dead.
Right. There you have it. Got it now.
Can these be broken down through mathematical or any other sort of sciences?
No, because you have to understand and know the meaning of the symbol, what they meant for them to be. If you don't know what they meant for them to be, then you're groping in the dark. Nothing's there.
So, if I remember correctly, a caller asked you last week. It was just at the end of the show. And I do believe she called in the first week and she put the same question to you. She was asking you about the 42 statements of confession. Some people say the 42 negative confessions. And you said that was incorrect. Those were more or less the words that you were saying. That basically it was incorrect. It's not correct when we talk about the 42 negative statements of confession, which some people say the 10 Commandments were taken from.
Well, let me explain it to you this way, Ancobia. What basis are they using in saying that they get the 42 negative confession from? What are they getting it? Where are they getting it from?
They're based off Ma'atian, Cometian principles.
Okay, what form did they get it? How did it come to them? What form of...
I couldn't answer that question. You'd have to ask them, or maybe I can ask Ashel Kwesi for you when I interview him this Wednesday.
Well, see, I know Ezra Kwesi. I talked to Ezra Kwesi. So you go ahead and do that. But I'm saying to you is this.
So where did they get them from? You answer the question. Where did they get them from?
Who got from?
Are you saying that they used the hieroglyphics to come up with the 42 statements?
No, I didn't say that. I didn't.
No, I'm asking you. Are you saying that?
No, I'm not saying that. The hieroglyphs have never been deciphered, period.
Okay, so where are they getting this from then?
You have to ask them. See, that's what I want to know. Then I can evaluate whether it's the truth or not.
No, but you said last week that it was incorrect. I've been taught a lot of misinformation about ancient Egypt, and that was one of them. So what are you using to say that that's incorrect?
You have to show me and tell me what and where you're getting the negative 42 confessions from. What are you using? Are you using hieroglyphics? That's what the person that called up and said that they was using. And I said, well, you can't do that because the hieroglyphics have never been deciphered.
So in your studies of, and I'm assuming here that you've studied the works of some of the leading African-centered scholars on ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt, where are they getting the information from that you say is incorrect? Where are they getting it from?
I have no idea. You have to ask them.
No, but you've made a statement that most of them have the wrong information. So that means you've read and you've studied their work. So where are they getting this incorrect information from that they're bringing back to the black community?
From where? Stolen legacy. George G.M. James wrote The Stolen Legacy. He put misinformation in our community. He said that the Greeks studied with the ancient Egyptians. The ancient Egyptians did not take foreigners into their sacred society. That's number one. Number two, the ancient Egyptians, our ancestors, the Africans, did not race mix with any other race of people. Number three, they would never, ever take anybody of any race, creed, or color into their sacred society but one of their own. And the Greeks couldn't come in there because they had no alphabet. They couldn't read or write. They had nothing to come into the sacred society to bring in there that resembled any type of high civilization or high form of educational stimulus. So therefore, they would never bring or have some illiterate person such as a Greek come in there and try to teach them. They're going to teach them A, B, C, D, E, F, G. They were too high.
Okay, so you're saying that George G.M. James got that incorrect in his book. Correct. You've said that all of the other scholars, I named a few scholars earlier, and you said that they're dealing with incorrect information. What is it, in your view, Professor Walters, that they... I'm not just asking you, I just want to get an understanding here so I can get a clearer picture of where you stand.
Okay.
Where is it that you say they are going wrong? You've just given us two examples to say that George G.M. James, in his book Stolen Legacy, he got it wrong because A.B. Now, where did the other scholars, for example, Ben Jacquemin, where is he going wrong?
Me and Ben Jacquemin, Dr. Ben, have shared a podium together in St. Louis. In America here.
Yes.
He is saying that the hieroglyphics have been deciphered. Okay, that's wrong. Dr. Ben is absolutely wrong. Now, I was at a luncheon with Dr. Ben in New York some years back. They was giving a tribute to Ivan Van Sertima.
Yes.
And I was talking to a young brother by the name of what was his name? I can't think of his name right now. But anyway, I was talking to this brother, and Dr. Ben was about 10, 15 feet away from me. And this young man was asking me about Christianity, so forth and so on. So I was expounding on the historical origin of Christianity. Dr. Ben asked me, said, when was Christianity, where did it first start?
Yeah.
He said, where did it begin? I said, it began at the close of the Council of Chalcedon in 451. He said, no, man, you're right. I said, okay, Dr. Ben, when did it start? He said, it started with Constantine. That's historically incorrect. I said, no, Dr. Ben, you're historically incorrect. He said, you're crazy, man. You're crazy. I said, Dr. Ben, I love you, and you're crazy, too. Oh, I was talking to Runoko Rashidi. That's who it was.
Okay. A very, very beautiful brother, I must say.
Yeah, okay.
Very humble.
Let's go to Cheikh Anta Diop.
Yes.
Okay, Cheikh Anta Diop wrote in his book Civilization and Barbarism.
Yeah.
Okay, and he put in there about some Atlantis, people of Atlantis. That's myth. Mm-hmm. Okay, I don't bring myth. See, Dr. John Henry Clark came to Chicago one evening, and I went there and attended his lecture. And he first thing out of his mouth, he says, "We cannot, no matter how much you like one of our African scholars, we cannot allow anybody of any race, creed, or color to bring misinformation into our African community. We haven't got time for that no more, okay?"
But you see, with George G.M. James, I mean, you've said that he's made a mistake. I would have to speak to other scholars to verify if that's actually correct. You said Cheikh Anta Diop has made a mistake. I'd have to speak to other scholars to verify if that too is also correct. But what I'm trying to get a picture of here is that you seem to dismiss the vast majority of the African-centered scholars. And your reasons for doing so is because you dismiss Dr. Ben because you say he claims the hieroglyphs were deciphered. You say they haven't been. You dismiss George G.M. James and his works, Stolen Legacy, because you say that he's incorrect about saying that the Greeks studied with the ancient Egyptians and they didn't. You're dismissing Cheikh Anta Diop because you said in his book he wrote about the Atlantis myths. But there has to be something, for me, there has to be something more solid, more concrete. What is it that they're not understanding that you say is incorrect?
Maybe it's something that you're not understanding. Okay? See, you have to, what you're doing, you're taking your knowledge, what you have in your mind at this very moment, and matching it with Dr. Ben, Dr. Chicanta Diop's and Chancellor Williams and et cetera, okay? I had to do the same thing, but I went a little deeper than them, okay?
Yeah, but you're not giving me... I want some concrete evidence. If you're going to dismiss what other people are saying, then I want some concrete evidence. I don't want to hear about traffic signs. When you take a traffic test, you get tested on 3 things. And I want to hear some concrete evidence.
Well, the thing is though, sister, you know, sometimes we have to use analogies which are understandable by the majority of people,
Pilot,
as opposed to
anyone who's
understood by the few.
Over the last 2 weeks, any person of the public who was called up and challenged our brother here, Brother Walters, he's made it very clear, I want some concrete facts. So I'm only using his line of argument to say that I want some concrete facts. If he's going to dismiss the leading African scholars, I want some concrete facts.
And Cobia, I'll tell you what you do. Pick out something that you want to challenge me on, and you bring the facts to me. Tell me that I'm wrong. Say, Walter, you are wrong. And if I'm wrong, I said, okay, you're right, and Cobia, I'm wrong. I'm man enough to do that.
No, but it's not for me to do that. You're the scholar, so you must bring me the facts. You're the scholar. You're the scholar. You bring me the facts.
I've written the facts in my book. You got both my books, Historical Origin of Christianity, Historical Origin of...
Yes, and on the page 146,
okay,
where you said that you have the facts, what you've put is you've drawn a symbol, and you've also said that, just what you did over the phone just now, can you see this symbol? No. You have to go to the original person to ask for the symbol. You've also put another point to say that if you were to drive a car, you would be tested in 3 categories, eyesight, rules of the road, and symbols. Yeah, so that's what you've used, isn't it?
Then wait now, that's only the beginning. You go into where I talk about Champollion.
Okay.
Talk about the Rosetta Stone. Talk about Carol Andrews, et cetera, et cetera. Talk about the Stone of Canopus.
Okay, so you want me to go away and study...
No, but you go and study that before you come to me and say, well, here, you're wrong. Why are you saying this against African scholars? You should have read that and studied that chapter.
No. But you're the scholar. No. You're supposed to prove to me why are the African-centered scholars incorrect?
On page 146. If you read the whole appendix, have you read the whole appendix?
So you're saying that you're saying no, I haven't. Okay, but you're saying that they're incorrect.
And Cobia.
Okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do then.
Time out. Hey, listen.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to read your appendix.
I think we do need a little. A slight time out.
I'm going to read his appendix of 4 pages. It's 4 pages, 4 A5 pages.
You go and read.
And then I'll
get back to you. I think though what we have to say though, Professor, is that there are going to be certain parts of your writings which a number of people will actually disagree with, and there is some of what you say which makes sense to me.
Okay.
I can actually see with my own small knowledge that I have that some of it makes sense. The analogies that you have to use analogies which a great number of people are going to understand, or else the book becomes meaningless.
Right,
so I can see where you're using your traffic lights, because everybody knows about traffic lights.
Correct.
So what I'm saying
to Sister Ancobia.
Yes, Brother Walters.
Don't ever do this again. Don't read everything of my works, and then put it on paper, and put the page down and say, now, Brother Walter, you said thus and such about this subject on page so-and-so, so-and-so. Then you can ask me or question me or challenge me. Don't just read 1 or 2 lines or listen to what I'm saying without reading the whole. I put that appendix in there for you.
But I'm asking you.
Wait, listen.
I'm asking you. It's not a question of don't ever do this again, because I'm doing the interview here. If I'm asking you to tell me what is it that you have issues with about the African-centered scholars, you should be able to tell me what it is that. Not that I should go and.
You don't understand it. I told you over and over and over again. They are reading the hieroglyphics. They're following behind what the Europeans have taught them. You cannot read no symbol. I'm going to ask you, I'm tell you again, Ancobia. You read why the metanatural hieroglyphics have never been deciphered, and you read that throughout. At the end of it, go back and study it.
I'll read the 4 pages. I'll come back to you, ask you some questions, and I'll also do it with Asher Kwesi this Wednesday and see what he thinks of your works. We have a caller on the line. Okay. Hello, caller.
Hello, Sister Ancobia.
Yes.
speaking. Brother Walters.
Yes.
I think you're right. It's for him to disprove if he's propounding the theory. And I just wanted to ask him about the hieroglyphics, because hieroglyphics have been deciphered using the Rosetta Stone by, was it Jean-Francois?
I think he's a French.
Yes, he's a Frenchman,
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You can decipher the hieroglyphics. Well, they have been deciphered, the Rosetta Stones in the British Museum. Anybody can go and view for themselves. And also wanted to ask about, you're talking about Egypt being the first world major civilization and the first language, but what about the Sumerian cuneiform language in what we now call Iraq, Iran, Mesopotamia? You know, those are the first languages, not just Egyptian.
That's not true. That's historically incorrect.
But again, see, you're dismissing all the evidence that's out there.
What evidence are you talking about?
Tablets have been uncovered over
What
centuries.
evidence are you talking about?
The tablets have been uncovered over centuries.
Have you studied the Sumerians, sir?
Say again?
Have you studied the Sumerians?
Just generally, just the
Well, you can't generalize it. Okay. If you study Sumerians, you'll find that the Sumerians will take you back to the Bible. They are listed in the Bible as the Stenorians and the Akkadians. Okay?
Yeah,
and everything that is attached to the Sumerians via the cuneiform, but you're talking about the cuneiform writing, will take you back to the Bible. The Bible is not human history.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about the Bible. These tablets have actually been uncovered in those regions. They exist.
Who uncovered them? Who are you talking about?
Uncovered them.
Samuel Noah Kramer? Are you talking about? Have you read the book called by Samuel Noah Kramer?
No, I haven't.
You haven't. Have you read anything about John A. Wilson?
No.
Have you read anything by Henry Frankfurt?
No.
Well, then you should read it. Don't read and be prepared before you come on any radio program and challenge me. See, you're talking about something that you believe to be true because...
No, he's talking about books that he's read and that he studied. You may not have read the books that he's read.
Indeed.
I have studied the subject of Sumerians.
Yeah, but
I've studied the study of the cuneiform. There's no such thing as the cuneiform.
Yeah, but have you gone to the institutes, various institutes around the world to see the tablets that have been uncovered?
I don't have to. Listen, I've studied out of books, just like what you're saying that you study out of. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking for facts. When I study a subject, I don't study it just one time. It's like I'm like a detective. I study that subject over the years. Okay, until I find the facts that I'm looking for, and to bring my point to fruition. Now, what they're saying, what the Europeans are saying, is that they're trying to get a European supposed civilization to match the ancient Egyptians. They're telling you, if you study Sumerians, they tell you that they have nothing to compare the Sumerians with any language group. They'll tell you that the Sumerians did not leave any evidence of themselves being on earth. Only just a moment, I'm not through. I listened to you.
Okay.
The only evidence that they left, they said, was a picture of themselves. A group of little white European-looking men with keen noses. They said this is all they left. And when you study a little further, like I've mentioned to you before, the Sumerians are in the Bible under Senor and Akkad. And the cuneiform, with the writings, those clay tablets, etc., etc., it goes back. They are symbols. And they are saying that Akhenaten of ancient Egypt wrote with those clay tablets in his writings, okay? So, you know, you have to go a little further than that.
I've got a lot of respect for the professor, but I don't think he's come to a conclusion in his studies, and I think you need to do a lot more, and you can't just dismiss other people's theories, especially when they've got tangible evidence.
What tangible evidence can you prove that the Sumerians walked Earth?
You can go to various institutes around the world, the Smithsonian, the British Museum, you can see the tablets that have been uncovered.
Those are, man, they made those tablets, sir.
I knew you were going to say something
like that. Of course.
Yeah, I mean, that's debatable.
Guess what? Let me tell you this. The ancient Egyptian civilization, you don't have to dig in the earth to prove that the ancient Egyptians lived on earth as human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Everything is topsoil. The Great Pyramids, the Sphinx, their monuments. Everything is topsoil. But all of a sudden, you got to dig in the ground to find some other evidence that some other civilization existed. No, I don't accept that.
No, that's logical, because over time, cities and stuff will get buried.
No. Okay, you said it was on.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks for letting me talk.
I think we should try and
thank you, Dennis.
try and extend some callers here.
Okay, so we have this caller has been holding for the longest while. I'm going to ask the other callers to call in as well. Thank you for holding, caller. Who am I speaking to?
You're speaking to Dave. You spoke to me last week when I attempted to collect my $5,000.
Okay, Dave.
And could you tell the professor I want it in pounds sterling, please?
In pounds sterling. What would you like to say to the professor? Can you? Sorry, have you got your radio on? We're getting a lot of feedback in the studio.
Yeah, we certainly are.
Let me turn it right down.
Yeah, turn it right down for us, please.
Is that better?
Yes, that's
marginally.
Okay. Evidence for Jesus Christ.
Yes.
I've got two witnesses, and indirectly they do not dispute the existence of Jesus Christ. Now, the first witness is Richard Dawkins, who's a leading anthropologist, geologist, has many letters after his name. If the professor has 5 letters after his name, this guy's got 50.
No, but let's not go there. That's neither here nor there. What's the evidence? What evidence did you get from Richard Dawkins? That's what the professor wants.
Well,
not how many letters has he got behind his name.
I just want to say that Richard Dawkins is more or less the high priest of atheism. He has nothing good to say about anything religious. He studied the Bible more than many Christians, yet he does not dispute the historical Jesus. And my second witness, Richard.
No, but what does he say? What does he say about Jesus? You can't get. You want £3,000? You've got to come with the evidence.
Well, he writes about him in his book, The God Delusion, because he tried to dispute. Well, he doesn't like anybody believing in anything, and obviously he believes in the historical Jesus, but not the Jesus who performed miracles, who was the Son of God, etc.
Okay. So before the professor comes in, what's your second person? The first one you brought in is Richard Dawkins. Who's your second person?
Richard Hawkins, world's leading astrophysicist.
Is that the gentleman in the wheelchair?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hawkins, yeah.
Now, he himself is another person who is an atheist, number one atheist. Now, he has done plenty of studying of the Bible, considering they don't believe it. They do plenty of studying of it to dispute it. And he himself, as a number one atheist, does not dispute the historical Jesus. Now, the other point is there's plenty of archaeological evidence that doesn't lie, that tells you about these people and the people who lived in that day.
Okay, Dave, somehow I've got a funny feeling you're not going to get the £3,000. Let's bring the professor in. Let's bring the professor in.
First place, Dave, you called up and said you wanted to collect the £3,000.
Yeah.
But you had the evidence to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have no evidence. Now, I'll tell you what I'll do for you. You seem like a nice person.
Yeah.
I'm going to offer you $2,000 to go and find someone to do that. Take up my challenge. They'll get $5,000, and you get to 2. Now, I want the law and the rules to get this £3,000 and this $2,000 finder's fee for people like yourself. You have to write up, whoever you get, they have to write it up on paper, how, where, and when a character by the name of Jesus Christ walked this earth in human form. Okay? Give me the historical evidence of that. You have to write it up. Now, don't tell me what you believe and not what you have faith in, and try to make your emotions make what you believe and have faith in right. Write it up like I did. I said there was no Jesus. I wrote it up on paper and showed you through a progression of history why there was never been a man that would walk the earth in human form and race people of color by the name of Jesus Christ. So you do the same thing, Dave. Don't waste my time.
Okay, Dave, what I would say to you just before we go to the news, right? Because I really do appreciate you calling up and taking that challenge, is read those books again, because you said you've got the books. Just read the books again, make notes of what it is that they actually say. But I'm saying, Make notes. What is it that they actually said? What is Dawkins saying? What is Hawkins saying? Make actual references to say, okay, well, they say this, they say that. What sources are they using to back up the evidence? How are they qualifying what it is that they say? Yes?
They're not trying to back up evidence, they're trying to dispute it, but they obviously speak of Jesus and, his interaction with particular people.
Because you think something doesn't make it right.
Yes. Okay, we really do appreciate your call. Go and do some research, and we're back next week.
Okay.
You're tuned to On a Level with Ankobia. This is Muta Baruka.
If a positive body, myself for example, comes in contact with a negative body, then that positive body should impart positive energy to said negative body, resulting in a state known as positivity.
The On a Level talk show is on the air. Let your voice be heard.
No topic is out of bounds.
Call the On the Level talk show on 0121 678 6666. And if that number is busy, then try
0121 678 6022.
Yes, welcome back to the On a Level talk show with me, Ankobia. In the studio, I have my beloved brother and friend, Brother Pilot.
I'll tell you something, I feel like a referee here.
You feel like a
I feel like I'm sorting out the two pugilistic giants here, and I'm sort of the man in the ring in between, fanning the flames.
Okay. On the line, we also have Professor Walter Williams, all the way from Chicago.
Correct.
Yes, thanks for holding on there.
Okay.
Now, we have a caller. We have so much calls actually calling in during the break. Let's see who's on the line. Hello, caller.
Greetings, Sister Ankobia. It's Maki.
Yes, Maki, what would you like to say?
Well, I did call in last time.
Yes, I remember. The Rastafarian brother.
Yes.
Yes.
And may I listen to the professor and thing, and I'd like to know that you read the 4 pages.
Have I read the 4 pages?
Yes, because you asked a question and I know I can't get the answer, but I hear about the traffic lights and the driving and the ABC and thing. All I know, if a brick lick me in my head, the evidence is clear that the brick hit me in my head. So I would like to hear the concrete evidence. Right? So I'd like the professor to get back to the question where he was asking, because that's what I want to know about.
What question exactly?
Yeah, ask him to prove directly his theories, right? Because he's basically denouncing everybody else's theories.
Yes.
Right?
What theories are you talking about? The hieroglyphics, sir?
Yeah, the hieroglyphics.
Okay, you have to read the chapter in my book. See, Ankobia, what you did was wrong. I'm going to tell you why. You didn't read that chapter from the beginning to the end. See, where you could have a better understanding.
No, I've looked through the chapter. I've looked through the chapter, but what I'm saying to you, right? If people are coming to you, Professor Walters, and they're putting certain questions to you, and you're saying to them, you must have evidence. I want some concrete evidence.
Mm-hmm.
You come onto the radio. You've dismissed all of the great black scholars.
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking you, what evidence? You're saying to me, read the 4 pages of the book. But the 4 pages of the book, the 4 pages of the book does not tell me why you dismissed Asher Kwesi, why you dismissed Ben Jacqueline, why you dismissed Sheikh Anta Diop, why do you dismiss John G. Jackson, why do you dismiss Dr. John Henry Clark, why do you dismiss Professor Ivan van Sertima? You're not telling me that.
Professor Williams, can I just interject here?
No, hold on, Brother Pilot.
Okay, Professor.
Sheikh Anta Diop, John G. Jackson, Dr. Clark, Dr. Ben, all those men, Chancellor Williams, all those men laid the foundation for me, for a person like Walter Williams to come on to. I have great respect for all of those men. I don't want you to think I don't. I can disagree with them, but I still like them.
I haven't got a problem if you disagree with them. I just want some evidence. That's all. I just want the evidence as to why you disagree.
Read the chapter.
But what evidence am I supposed to see?
Hold on, Sister Ankobia. We can get stuck on this particular point. Just let me.
Hello.
Hold on.
Maki.
Hello.
Yes, the caller, Maki.
No, I hear me now. we all can discuss this at one level, you know, because what I hear in the radio, you know, Professor is bullying down the talking, right? Now, each individual can speak. Now, all I would like the professor to do is directly answer the question, because directly, I don't have to know. I just want to know where you get your equals from, your solution.
Okay.
From.
Let me talk. I said stop talking and let me talk. I'll answer that question. Number one, I get that question all the time. So what I did, sir, was to write up in my book, The Historical Origin of Christianity, an appendix section, which is another chapter to that book, of why the meta-nature hieroglyphics has never been deciphered. I put it in writing so you can read it, study it, and hopefully understand it. Okay? Now, that's my answer to you. I've written my answer to that. And number two, let me go to number two. Since people have not and do not have my book before them, I give you the most simplest form of understanding why the meta-nature hieroglyphics has never been deciphered. And that being, in order for you or anybody to know anything about those pictorial symbols that the ancient Egyptians drew, you have to ask them who drew those symbols, the ancient Egyptians, what he or she meant for them to be. That's number one. Number two, I told you, and I'm telling you now, you cannot read symbols. In order to read a symbol, you have to put an alphabet to it. You cannot put an alphabet to symbols. And the only thing you can do with a symbol is you have to know the meaning of it in order to explain it, if you know the meaning of it. Now, that's very simple as I can get it until you read my chapter in my book.
Yeah, but at the end of the day,
now, if that doesn't
in the
satisfy
Egyptian,
you,
when the Egyptians, they draw symbols. They draw symbols directly to talk to each other. That was their way of communication, to know, say, well, they live in something, right? So if them gone, we would be able to decipher it. Right? You're saying you can't decipher, right? No symbol,
you don't know what
right? Mathematically or scientifically. There's no way, right?
No way you can do that, sir.
All right. So basically, you're saying buy the book and we find out.
I'll tell you what I'll do. This Wednesday, I'll read it out. I've got Asher Kwesi on the show this Wednesday, okay? I'll read it out for everybody because it's £16. Maybe not everybody can afford the book. If you can, and you're interested in the subject, the historical origin of Christianity, then perhaps you can do that. I'll read it out for everybody this Wednesday, the 4 pages, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, caller, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, yeah.
Okay.
Professor Williams, correct me if I'm wrong in terms of what I felt you said earlier on. You said that the ancient Egyptians left 3 forms of communication. Now, they left the hieroglyphics.
The system was called the hieroglyphics.
The phonic system.
The who?
The alphabetic system.
The alphabet system.
The system that they used to write down the sounds of different languages.
Right.
From the people whom they met as they traveled around the world, yes.
And what was the third one? We didn't get to the third one. Is that what you're saying, Paul?
It was the hieratic. You're talking about Brother Pilate?
Yeah, I'm talking. I'm asking you, Professor.
Yes.
I'm just trying to get a sort of an angle on what you said before, and the three forms of communication. Mm-hmm. Now we've got 2, and the third one was
demotic script. The hieratic demotic script. There are 2 different scripts. Okay, the hieratic and the demotic actually is a continuation of one to the other. Okay.
Okay.
Well, some might say, and with my very small amount of understanding, that because they left another 2 vehicles of communication, from those vehicles of communication which are used around the world now, which we call different languages, the possibility is there to decipher that 3rd form of communication, the hieroglyphics. Now, I'm not saying I'm no professor. I'm just trying to reason the whole issue out here.
Okay, now stop there. You're speaking about language. You cannot, no matter what and how many languages you speak, you cannot use your language to decipher the hieroglyphics, because you have to know the meaning of it. Then you can speak the meaning using your language. If you spoke 1,000 languages right now, If you don't know the meaning of those pictorial symbols and explain the meaning of those symbols, language, your knowledge of language won't do you any good, because you can't tell me what the meaning of those symbols in any language. And another thing, let me tell this to you, Brother Pilot, Sister Ancobia, and the listening audience. I have at home an American dictionary of the English language, and it has in there the hieroglyphics. And they're telling you that the hieroglyphics is unreadable, undecipherable. They are telling you that. I can send you that evidence from this dictionary. Okay?
Yep.
So therefore, I'm not, these African scholars who study from these European scholars, taking their word without doing any investigative research on their own. I am not hitting at them. That's just like you and your brother fighting, and your mother jumps in the middle of it. So she's got to take the lick too. You don't mean to hit your mother. I don't mean to put down different scholars. If they're wrong, they're wrong. George M. James, if you go back and read George M. James' book, Stolen Legacy, every sentence that he writes, he gives you a European reference to it. That means that he didn't investigate that. He just took it from the top. I don't do that. Okay, I don't care if my mother said.
What sources do you use? Because you quote a lot of European scholars in your book. So other than European scholars that you quote, what other sources do you use, Professor?
I use the source of different scholars, whether they're European, African, or etc. Okay? And then I draw my own conclusion. I have a brain, I have a mind, I can think.
So you're saying George...
I've studied history for going on 35 years now.
So you're saying George M. James, even though he was one of the first scholars, because he wrote a long, long time ago. So at the time when he came on the scene, there wasn't even a lot of resources at the time. He was one of the founding fathers, you can say, of African-centered scholarship.
Okay, that's good. That's fine. I still love him. Can I not agree with him? Do you agree with everything your mother tell you and your father tell you?
No, most certainly. But what I'm saying, and I'm going to say this as a last point before we move on to look at the Jewish myth exposed.
No, you have to stay on this subject. This is good. You have to go into the Jewish myth. That's another subject.
Okay, no, because you want to discuss that subject as well. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. All I'm saying to you is that I'd like to know, why is Ra Nephramen, why are all of these people wrong? What is it that, when you look at all of these people and you look at their works, I'm assuming you've read their books, what is it that makes you say, you know what, these guys are putting out the wrong information to my community, and I now have to put forward the correct information to my community?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's correct. All right. Take, for instance, Chancellor Williams, Destruction of Black Civilization.
Yes.
In my third book coming out, which should be out around the spring of next year, it's called Reclaiming Ancient Egypt, the repudiation of the Hyksos, including the chronology of ancient Egypt and the Persian period. Mm-hmm. Okay? I mentioned Destruction of Black Civilization and Chancellor Williams. Yes. Chancellor Williams put misinformation out in the African community when he wrote that book.
Such as?
Because he used the chronology of ancient Egypt to do that, and the chronology of ancient Egypt was created by the Europeans using the Bible. And you can't use the Bible for human history. Okay? Mm-hmm. That's the reason why I'm talking about what happened out there with the George M. James and what happened with Chancellor Williams.
And Dr. Ben Yochanan and Ash. And so where is Ashakwezi going wrong?
I didn't say Asra Crazy was going wrong. If Asra Crazy bring up the Hyksos, that's wrong. If Asra Crazy said that the hieroglyphics have been deciphered, that's wrong. I've talked with Asra Crazy.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I have been on programs with him before.
Yes,
you know where I'm coming from.
Yes.
Okay, and I was making some statements about Dr. Ben. Dr. Ben was his teacher.
Yes.
I respect that. Okay? I love Dr. Ben. I respect Dr. Ben. But I can not agree with him. I don't have to agree with Dr. Ben because I love him. You don't have to agree with your mother and father because you love them and they're your mother and father. That doesn't mean that you dislike them. So I want you to get that out of your mind. I don't dislike our African scholars. I love them. They created a foundation for me to come today. They caused me to begin to think. But the only thing I did, and Kobe, was go a little deeper than them
That's all. So my scholarship is a little different.
So, in your new book...
I say, as well, the Hyksos never invaded the ancient Egyptians. Now, he goes around and he talks about that, which is okay. I can't make him stop doing that. Only thing I can put out what I have found in my research to repudiate that. And that's what I'm doing.
So this is what your third book will be about?
That's correct.
Okay.
You see, repudiation of the Hyksos and the chronology of ancient Egypt. You cannot use the chronology of ancient Egypt because in this third book, I'm presenting you with 4 different chronologies. Okay? And see, the first chronology was created in 1867. I've got a book, it was in 1867, and they got a chronology of ancient Egypt. The first chronology, they said, started at 2188 BC with Mesram, in parenthesis, Menes, as being the first pharaoh. Now, Mesram is who? The son of Ham. Ham is the son of Noah. And Noah is the father of the Ham, Shem, and Japheth in the Bible, in the family and table of nations. You can't use that. And then the next chronology came out with a book called with James Henry Breasted out of the University of Chicago called The History of Egypt. He starts his chronology with 3400 BC, and he drops Mesram and uses Menes. Okay? So you got 2 different dates in there, beginning dates for the chronology of ancient Egypt. Then the third chronology came out of a book called Kingship and the Gods by Henry Frankfurt. They start their chronology of ancient Egypt was 3100 BC, and the first pharaoh was Narmer Menes. Okay? So then you go to the Bible. The Bible got their chronology in ancient Egypt, and their chronology started 1718 BC. You got all these different chronologies out here, all based on the Bible, all written by you.
But you're saying now you found the correct one.
Let me make this statement. Then I'm only bringing this out and writing the things I'm writing for the African community to make you think. That's all I want you to do, provoke thought. Now, if you can't, if you read what I have to say,
what sources did you use, Professor? What sources did you use to get the correct chronology, you say, of ancient Egypt?
Well, see, in my book, The Historical Origin of Christianity, I have 25 books of bibliography. In my Historical Origin of Islam book, I have 37 books of bibliography there. So you pick out whatever you want.
Okay, so you use European scholars.
I use European scholars.
Well, I think he's
that I can get. I use even African scholars.
Okay.
So it's there.
One of the things I want to touch on as well with the Bible, because we've been touching on the Bible over the last 2 weeks as well.
Okay.
A lot of people, those who are trying, perhaps, for example, show that there is a link between the Bible and ancient Kemet, people will say, well, if you look to the Bible, you can see that the Bible was traced or taken from a lot of the spiritual concepts and teachings of ancient Kemet. What's your view on that?
I will agree to that, but I don't use the word Kemet. Please don't use that. That's misleading. Don't do that.
Okay, but when it comes to Kemet, what is it that you're saying about the Bible that... what is it that we could look at in the Bible and say, okay, right, this come from ancient Kemet, this came from ancient Kemet or Egypt, whatever you want to call it. What is it that we can look at in the Bible?
I can't point to any one thing in there off the top of my head, but it's there. The whole concept of civilization came out of ancient Egypt. Not only those statements in the Bible, but the whole entire concept of for all humanity came from the culture and civilization of the ancient Egyptians all over the world. There it is, right in your face. You're using it every day. The Chinese use it every day. Indians use it every day. Europeans use it every day. Africans use it. Everybody all over the world, of all races, creeds, and color, uses some form or the other of the civilization and the culture of the ancient Egyptians. So I can't just go to a little senseless Bible and point out something.
Okay, we're listening to Professor Walter Williams, all the way from Chicago, gracing us with his presence. And I'm sure that you have a lot of questions to ask, and a lot of them may not be answered. But one thing I'm glad that Professor Williams has said is that he's trying to deal in he's looking at the black scholars and saying, look, I'm not trying to be just ultra dismissive of their work, but
right.
I present another viewpoint.
Right. There you have it, Brother Pilot.
Now, I think we need to... Now, what's happening here, Professor, is that individuals are scrutinizing this particular viewpoint, because every viewpoint should be scrutinized.
Correct.
in my opinion, just to see if it holds water.
Right.
And if it is the right stuff to take forward to make us a better people.
Right. There you go, Brother Pilot. You got it.
Okay, I think we have a caller on the line. Let's see what they have to say. Good evening.
Good evening.
Who am I speaking to?
You're speaking to Omajok.
Good evening, Omajak.
Okay, good evening to everybody there.
Yes, good evening,
sir.
Good evening, yeah. The question that I would like to ask is, seeing as you said they haven't deciphered anything, we understand that Europeans, or should I say Asiatic people, invaded Kemet in the end, like the Arabs.
That's not true, but go ahead.
Well, from what I understand, the Arabs won the Romans out of Kemet, isn't it? They took over. Is that not true?
That's not true.
Okay, well, I read it in a book. But anyway, if that was the case and Africans in the Nile Valley spread around, couldn't it be that the cultures carried with them? Didn't they not just stay within the Nile Valley? So if you was to study, couldn't you find that some of the cultures are with the people and you could start to use that as a basis to study the culture of ancient Kemet?
Excellent question, excellent.
Okay, I just got to answer that. I just got to tell you and answer that question before you even called. I told you the culture and the civilization of ancient Egypt is all over the world, used by all of humanity. Chinese, Indians, Africans, Filipinos, Mexicans, everywhere. Everybody is using the culture and the civilization of ancient Egypt simply because they were the world's first and oldest civilized people. The only people on planet Earth during the time of antiquity, which means ancient times, they had a writing system, so therefore they was only literate people on planet Earth. And they was only people living and knowing how to build brick buildings because they, in order to build a brick building, you have to know mathematics. So they knew math. They created math.
Have you ever studied the Dogon teachings or the Yoruba or the Ifa systems or any of those, or the Akan or the...
Those are religions, Ancobia.
But I'm just asking you, have you ever studied any of those African ancient systems to see if there's any similarity between them and ancient Kemet?
Those are religions you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, this is what,
there's nothing to do with that.
Amajak, come in.
Yeah, this is what the kind of question I really wanted to get to as well, because some of the African cultures today, spiritual culture, or whatever you want to call it, the way they relate to, creation and their reality, couldn't you look in that and say, well, we can see similarities with the Yoruba culture, from what I understand?
This is okay. Fine.
If that's the case, couldn't you find in those cultures you could relate to ancient Kemetic culture, and then you could understand what the culture was actually about, because African people are still studying.
You can look into Indian culture and see the parallels between the Indian culture and some of the parallels between the Indian culture and the ancient Egyptians. You can do that to the Europeans. It's all over. So you can't use that.
Well, I think that would be a logical thought and understanding. If we are trying to understand that culture,
if you want to use that approach, fine. I don't agree with that. That's all.
Well, I'm just saying, if we're going to reference ancient Egyptian culture and look into it, shouldn't we find the people closest to them that is close with the culture that you can at least try to begin to understand it?
If you're going to do that, then go into Ethiopia, go into the Sudan.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Deal with the Nubians and so forth and so on. So no, I don't agree with that.
Their cultures.
I don't agree with that. So therefore, if you want to do that and you want to use that, go right ahead. Don't let me stop you.
Why?
I just don't agree with it.
Why? Why?
Why what?
Why wouldn't you go and study amongst the ancient Nubians or the Sudanese or the Ethiopians to see if any of the culture that came from Egypt is with those people?
Now, so you can get.
What will I be studying?
Okay,
brother Amajak.
Thank you very much.
Listen, we can't talk at the same time, but we can sing at the same time. Everybody is using, I told you, if I look into Ethiopia, they use tables to eat off of, they use utensils to eat with, same thing they did in ancient Egypt. They use paper to write with, same thing they did in ancient Egypt. And the same thing with the Sudan. The Sudanese going to Europe the same way, going to China the same way, going to India the same way. So I already know it's there. It's all around you.
But you're saying now we should go straight back to ancient Egypt to find our
and
spirituality rather than going to those African traditions that exist.
And Kobe, let it down, sweetheart. That's right. You're absolutely right.
Okay.
Now you're getting it. Now, Brother Pilot hit everything on the head of the statements that he made.
Which was?
I'm just trying to recall what I actually said, my brother. Honestly, and I'm supposed to be partly presenting this program as well.
Right.
So I've said a few things, but as I said, you know, sometimes we have to dwell on our similarities as opposed to our differences sometimes, because as black people throughout the world, we find that we dwell on our differences, which drives a further wedge between us, rather than dwelling on our similarities or what we have in common.
But that leads me to ask.
You know, so in a lot of arguments we can actually agree to disagree.
Right, but we don't have to be enemies, or we don't have to dislike each other.
There's the thing.
That leads me to ask this question. When you look at the religions of Christianity, Judaism and Islam, for those black people who are in those religions, who are dedicated followers of those religions, and for those persons who may not be interested in religion, they may follow African traditions or whatever, given the diversity of our makeup when it comes to spirituality and religion, is there anything that you can look at to say, you know what, there's a common thread here, there's a common value system now we can come up with that we could say that it doesn't matter what you want to believe in, but here's a common thread that we can all work around, some common themes, some common values.
Okay.
Yes.
Listen to this, Ancobia.
Yes.
Take every religion on earth and throw it in the nearest garbage can and get it out of your life. Now, the common thread that all humans have is their personal spirituality connected to the universe. That's what we have in common. You got close to 7 billion people walking this earth of all races, creeds, and colors. Everybody's trying to do the same thing. You know what that is? Breathe from the same air. That's what we have in common. Now, all this other garbage, such as a Bible and religion, is all man-made. You don't need that. I told you last week, our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, were in tune with the universe. The universe taught them how to build the greatest edifice that's ever been built on planet Earth. The Great Pyramid, the Sphinx, and they used them as human instruments to bring forth all of civilization for all of humanity.
Okay, we just have a caller.
Wait, Ancobia.
Yes.
Why should you or anybody reduce your mind from greatness, from big thinking, down to a narrow Bible, a narrow mind?
But the question could also be asked, why focus on ancient Egypt when there's no one around, there's no ancient Egyptians around to tell us about their culture, and leave out the rest of Africa, where they have, you know, the Dogons, you have the Nigerians, you have all these other African spiritual traditions. Why bypass and walk away from all of that and go straight to ancient Egypt?
I didn't tell you to walk away from it. If you want, listen.
Last week. Hold on, Professor. Hold on, Professor. We do have a caller on the line who may want to ask a question. Caller?
Hi, it's me. It's Chris.
Chris.
What would you like to say, Chris? Good evening.
Evening, Sister Ancobia, Brother Pilot.
Thank you.
Evening. Professor?
Yes.
Walter Williams.
Yes, sir.
I was reading your book last night, and I actually bumped into Sister Ancobia tonight and heard that you were speaking.
What
I'm sorry that...
what book was that, sir?
Your book, The Historical Origin of Christianity.
Okay, go ahead.
I was having my second go on the book.
Okay, great.
Because I'm one of those people from the Caribbean.
Okay.
Where I was taught that as a child, if you didn't behave yourself and pray to God, you wouldn't go to heaven.
Right.
So when I actually stumbled on your book, I was very relieved.
Oh,
but
okay.
I'm disappointed tonight because, first of all, there appears to be some misunderstanding as to whether there is any evidence that some of our African historians have actually deciphered the hieroglyphics you've been talking about all evening. I just find it a bit difficult that such something as simple as evidence or no evidence has caused such a long discussion. And I hope it's friendly anyway. I can give you that. What I'd like to ask you, though, is whether in this day and age, and I know you talked about Christianity and the rest of religions in a sort of disparaging way, and I agree with you. But how can we get our people in particular to understand that the whole idea of Christianity is based on nothing more than the fallacy of the Greeks and the Romans? What do we need to do to get more people to understand?
This is the answer. Buy my book, if they want to, The Historical Origin of Christianity, because I walk you through the historical progression of how that image came about, who that image was given to, and how the composite of the two names of Osiris and Apis was put together to make the name Serapis. And I put you and walk you through that progression. I take you into the council meetings, the Council of Nicaea 1, 325, the Council of Constantinople 1, 381, the Council of Ephesus 431, the Council of Chalcedon 451, and the Council of Constantinople 2553. Now, the most important of those council meetings, if you read, is the Council of Ephesus 431, where they created the created creature called the Virgin Mary by taking Isis out of ancient Egyptian divine pride and giving her the attributes of Isis. Therefore, the Serapis image to have a mother. Okay? See, the argument over in Africa for 921 years was whether this image that we know today is Jesus Christ had a human nature or not. That went along for 921 years. Now, what you need to do, is to go into the other four council meetings is in my book, The Historical Origin of Islam. The Council of Constantinople 3, 680. The Council of Hieroglyphs, one that people have never heard of. A lot of people have never heard of that. The Hieroglyphs 754. The Council of Nicaea 2, the Iconoclastic Controversy Council meeting, 787, produced by Empress Irene, etc., etc. And then the fourth council meeting, 869 and 870, was the Photius Philocry Council meeting. Those are historical things that will give you a good understanding of what I'm talking about. But you have to read what I'm saying. Read my work. And like you said, sir, that you're a very smart man. You read. This is your second time around reading what I've written in the Historical Origin of Christianity. Is that correct?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I'm quite happy to understand that the God that the Europeans talk about is a white boy with blue eyes.
Okay.
So,
well, I'll tell you how this white image got into play. And I told you last week. People maybe missed it. Today, what the world is being offered and put upon is Western Christianity.
Absolutely.
When the seed of Christianity moved out of Africa, out of the Hagia Sophia, out of the Constantinople, into Europe, that was the second seed, into the Vatican. The Vatican was created in the 15th century, 1445 to be exact. And
my problem is,
you had Western Christianity coming at you. And this is what is being practiced and used out there today.
My problem is, Professor, is that the slave island that I was born in, Jamaica, this idea of Christianity is growing. If you talk to the next brother you see on the street, they will argue to you for days on end about the righteousness of Christianity and Jesus and the rest of it. And no one is arguing with them. So this thing is growing and overwhelming our community.
Well, it has overwhelmed our community, and probably it's growing over there in Jamaica and in Africa, et cetera, et cetera. But over in America, it's beginning to diminish. Okay? So that's a good thing to know.
Is there, Professor, because you mentioned about Christianity coming out of Africa, is there like an African form of Christianity that African Christians, you would recommend them move towards?
No, because see, the image of as Jesus Christ, then known as the Serapis, and Christianity, as you know, as a religion, the foundation was laid there in Northeast Africa, in Turkey, in Constantinople, etc., and parts of it was done in Egypt. But the creation of Christianity was created for the European. It wasn't created for us Africans. You have to really understand that. See, we don't need no religion. Our ancestors, ancient Egyptians, never had a religion. They had a spiritual way of life with the underlying principle of Ma'at, truth, justice, peace, love, and wisdom.
Chris, is there anything else you wanted to ask?
I just wanted to plant a few, well, at least one more point.
Okay, let's just make this
brief. Perhaps the professor needs to at least name names. You know, people like Alexander the Greek or Alexander the First, and the people who actually made this God. Some of them are the people who agreed to make the Jesus of today or the Serapis of yesterday were African people. And perhaps you need to give a bit more the dates. I know you mentioned 430.
In the first show, if I'm correct, Chris, in the first show, in fairness to the professor, he did go into that history.
Well, we need to just drop it again because the pastors and the reverends and the bishops are so strong in England that nobody can talk to them.
What the professor says about the councils, in particular the one in 325, is very important because that is the basis. Or part of the basis of European Christianity.
Correct.
And all it was about was Constantine getting some priests together to debate a theory which was put forward by a priest called Arian, I believe.
No.
Am I right?
Oh,
Arian talked about how can the Father be the Arian? Yeah. How can the Father be the Son? And Constantine said, hang on, we need to reorientate this.
Okay, just stick a pin a moment, Professor. Can you just hold on just a moment as we go to the phone lines?
Okay.
Thank you. Hello, caller.
Hello, Anakovic.
Yes, hello. Who am I speaking to?
Listen, it's Clive.
Clive? Okay, yeah. Clive, what would you like to say or ask? What question would you like to ask?
No, it's just that, you know, this thing about religion, yeah? You've got so many kinds of religion that so many different nations are take it up. You cannot know where to start from because if somebody steps up and says they believe, Jesus Christ is a Messiah, then the next religion steps up and say he's a father, and then the next religion steps up and says he's this. But really and truly, Jesus Christ on earth, to say that the whole earth is given to one kind, and that is us. So how can you go any further than that? What you gonna do? Go up in the sky and say the moon is something for you, for have cheese on it and it have milk and honey. Everybody knows that the milk and honey is down here with us. So really and truly, life in its existence, it's our life, apart from creatures on the earth, which we are the people, and you have a man, you have a woman, and you have a child. And the only way you can go for that, you have a man, you have a woman, and you have a woman or a man as your child, which is your baby.
Okay.
And some say
Jesus Christ is the only person who can stand up and say, listen, one thing on earth is that we exist. Anything else in this whole world or universe or wherever you're there, Mars or whatever.
I don't understand that. What do you mean? What do you mean, Chris? Am I missing something? Jesus Christ, you say, is the only person who can stand up and say that we exist?
Yes, he is.
Why?
Because you will never see nobody apart from him say up and say, listen, your mother, your father, that is who you come from.
Well, the problem is with some of the religious books is that the absence of the feminine role, and I have a lot of issue with that.
But that's what I'm talking about. Am I speaking to Pilate? Listen, Pilate, yeah? Listen, your mother and your father, yeah?
Correct.
Then give you life.
Correct.
Yeah? Your mother is the person who holds your life. Your father can take your life away from you. Jesus Christ was born, right? And they say when he was born, he had people come look for him, yeah? Are you so and so? What did he say? Give me an answer.
Beg your pardon, what we're talking about? 3 wise men here?
No, we're talking about
3 wise men with some weed.
We're talking about kings, princes, and everything.
Okay, right, fair enough. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. And what happened to him when they crucified him? They said he was a king of.
Let me just give the professor a chance to respond to what you're saying, Chris.
Okay, Professor Williams.
Okay, I would never respond to that because everything he's saying is historically incorrect. So I don't. Thank you for the call, and let's move on.
Chris.
Hello, I'm still here.
Yes. Okay, so the professor is saying the professor. Just a moment,
you're
Chris.
telling me everything what is written in the Bible is incorrect.
Take it to the nearest garbage can. The Bible and everything that's connected to the Bible, all the religions.
No. One thing is right. You cannot say one person right is a whole. Knows the universe, the Earth, and every single planet on the Earth. It's the only planet what exists. So how can can you say you can say
Chris, hold on just a moment.
Hold on a sec, Chris.
Can you name any character in the Bible?
I don't deal with the Bible. I deal with reality.
I'm not through.
Reality. If you exist in reality, you cannot.
You're not dealing with the Bible. You just asked Brother Pilate a few questions from the Bible, so you're obviously dealing with the Bible.
Chris, we've got to sort of get our sort of situation straight here, because you've made a lot of, I'm not saying quotations from the Bible, but references to the Bible.
No, you see now, the Bible was written after Jesus Christ died. Yeah, the Bible was discovered. Yeah,
Chris, let me ask you this question, and we're gonna get off the air and go to the next caller. When was the first Bible ever printed on planet Earth? What country was it printed in? What city was it printed in? What alphabet was used to print that Bible? Who formulated that Bible? Using whose material to formulate that Bible? And what was the orthodox name of it? Can you tell me that?
What was it? Wasn't it the King James?
Please. Goodbye, Chris. Thank you.
Listen.
Let's go to the next one.
Listen.
Next
if you're asking me questions, you want me to give you answers. You're sitting there and you are supposed to give me the answers, not me give you the answers.
Because you're talking about the Bible. I'll tell you to take the Bible to the garbage can. It's worthless. Get it out of your life.
Well, what are you talking about before? First of all, we're talking about the person, right?
I think we have to get a little bit of harmony within this debate here. Okay, Professor Williams, your view is obviously that the Bible has no place in anybody's life, as far as you're concerned. That is what I'm getting from you.
I think he says the Bible and the Quran.
But there are
and the Quran too, because the Quran contains the Bible. The Old and the New Testament is in the Quran.
There are a great number of people who have scholarships in the area of theology and various other aspects of religion.
But that's the reason why
so they would say different.
So just a moment, Chris, we're going to have to move on.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Appreciate it.
11 minutes to the hour.
Okay, Professor, you were saying?
Of course, you're going to have people in the theology world. You know why, Brother Pilot? Because as a child, as an innocent child, their parents taught them and introduced them to a religion, whatever religion that they are practicing in their adult life. Okay? That came through their innocence, being taught by their parents. So they grew up going through grammar school believing in it, going to high school believing in the religion, and going into college say, well, okay, I'm going to get me a degree in theology, and I'm going to become a teacher.
Okay, Professor, we've got another caller on the line.
Okay, good.
Who am I speaking to?
Hello?
Who are we speaking to?
Paul.
Paul from where?
Erdington.
Okay, Paul. Have you got a question for Professor Williams?
Not so much of a question. I just want to say something.
More of a statement, then.
I'm myself. I'm a Christian. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a born again Christian by the Spirit of God. Yeah.
Yes.
And I just want to say to you, Sister Ancobia, Brother Pilot. Sorry, what's the professor's name?
Walter Williams. Professor Williams.
Right. The Bible talks about such a person as Professor Williams. That such a one that does not believe that Jesus Christ is
the Antichrist.
Hold on a bit, Professor Williams. Hold on.
I know he's going to say the
Antichrist. Are you referring to Professor Williams as an Antichrist?
Can I just say something, Chris?
I didn't say that. I said this. The Bible says anyone who does not believe that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is of the spirit of Antichrist. Right, he has not got the Spirit of God.
So you're saying that all of us who don't believe in Jesus Christ, all the Muslims or the Jews or the Buddhists, anybody who doesn't believe or accept that Jesus Christ came in the flesh is of the Antichrist. Now, isn't that a wonderful way to get the church to control people?
No, it's not about control.
Yes, so what isn't it about? Because
it's about
a vast majority of the population in the world do not believe or accept Jesus Christ as our Savior. We are going to go to hell and burn for eternity.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Oh, well, who knows? Maybe I'll see you there.
Sister Ancobia, you have to understand what Christ has done for humanity.
Okay, I'm talking to this brother, the caller.
Who says that we're Antichrist? Or you're Antichrist?
Fine. What you need,
I didn't say that you're Antichrist.
Or part of.
Forget about that. Anyone call me whatever you want to call me. It's okay. No problem. I have no problem with that. I'm a big guy.
Okay, Chris.
Okay, Chris.
We can sing together. We can't talk together. Okay, now listen, Chris. what you need to do is go and get you a pulpit and then preach and talk what you're trying to tell us over the radio. This is the wrong platform for that.
No, this is the right platform. I disagree, because we're a community and everybody has a right to have an opinion on this station. We're a community station. We can't just take on the callers who agree with your viewpoints or who may agree with something I say or pilot. Everybody has a right.
A whole lot of time with
everybody has a right to say. But Chris, you've made your point that anybody who doesn't accept Jesus Christ, you're saying that of the spirit of the Antichrist.
That's right. You
okay, well, thank you for your call. Thank you for your call.
That's what you said. Thank you for your call and keep going. But you're not going to convince Chris. You can argue with him till tomorrow morning. He's still going to tell you that he believes in Jesus Christ.
Okay. It's very interesting. Like I said, I do think it's one way of controlling people by saying to people that if you don't believe in this, that, you know, you are part of the spirit of the Antichrist. And people get fearful because they believe in a concept of Satan and things like that.
That's part of...
it's all about control.
That's part of the side effects of all
I suppose Satan's a part of control as well.
Yes.
See, one of the side effects of Christianity is fear.
Yes.
Okay? And there's 3 others, but we won't go into...
But I have to say, it's been a very interesting, fraught at times, but I think we've come back to a sort of a balanced area. And I have to say, as unpalatable as view as the professor holds to some, I think it has to be discussed. In my opinion, and people may find it unpalatable, and that is the problem. Sometimes we cannot debate the unpalatable, and this is where we need to start to have mature debate around issues which we find difficult to broach, and only then will we get the answers.
Professor, a question that I'm often asked is, considering that many of us were taken from the western part of Africa and enslaved in the West, why do we then venture towards ancient Egypt? Why not somewhere in West Africa? What's your take on that? I'm asked that question quite often.
See, this is what they want you to do. They tell you in America that all Africans in America came from out of West Africa. That's to take you away from ancient Egypt. That's your greatness. Our greatness is lying in the continent of Africa. In ancient Egypt, lying there, unclaimed, because the descendants of the ancient Egyptians has been taught away from ancient Egypt, and that's what they want. So they can say that you are inferior, but they can't say that when you say, I am a descendant of the ancient Egyptians. The ancient Egyptians are my ancestors. They can't say that. That's the reason why. As a group of doctors, they call themselves the black physicians of the Cook County Hospital in Chicago. They asked me to give them a lecture. I came to them and lectured them. I'm going to tell you something. I'm telling you this, it says something. Mm-hmm. I told them, I said, as a suggestion, I would suggest that you stop calling yourself black physicians and say Imhotep Physicians Association of Cook County. They say, why? I said, because then you would be resurrecting ancient Egypt and you'd be claiming your ancestry as being the ancient Egyptians. And she said, well, how do you know that I'm an ancient Egyptian? This is a brother talking to me. I said, let me ask you a question. Do you believe that a people that is known as the ancient Egyptians built the Great Pyramids and Sphinx and et cetera, in Africa and Egypt? She said, yes. Do you also believe that a people during the time of antiquity lived on planet Earth that is known as the Greeks and the Romans? He says, yes. I said, do you also agree that the people such as the Chinese and the Indians of India lived during the time of antiquity along with the ancient Egyptians? He says, yes. I said, now, I want you to start thinking. Now, today, the Greeks are around calling themselves Greeks. The Greek descendants are around saying that I'm a Greek. The descendants of the Romans are around saying I'm an Italian. They are identifying with their ancestors. The Chinese are saying today I'm a Chinese. The Indian today are saying that I'm an Indian. This is the question. Where is the ancient Egyptian descendants? And he looked startled at me. His mouth dropped open. Where are the descendants of the ancient Egyptians? These people, these grand and glorious Africans over in Africa who built the greatest civilization and culture that ever existed on planet Earth, civilized this whole entire world, all over the world. The civilization and culture of the ancient Egyptians are being used by all races And here we are talking about we are some kind of black people. We're talking about African Americans. We're talking about we are Negro. We're talking about this.
Black British.
Everything is taking us away from ancient Egypt. So that's the reason why. And then the scholars, our African scholars, come along and call ancient Egypt Kemet. Wrong. Don't do that. I keep telling them don't do that. Okay? So
why is it wrong?
Isn't that your opinion, Professor Williams?
What's that now?
Isn't that your opinion in terms of the Kemet issue which you just mentioned? And we're coming up to the end of the program, so
okay, Brother Pilot, let me tell you this. Anything I say, I have a reason to say it.
Right.
I just don't say things and be left out on the limb. Okay. The reason why you cannot use Kemet is that you cannot go to the world map and pick out Kemet on the world map. That's number one. There's no history written for a Kemet. That's number two.
Okay, we just have a few.
And number three, I said, where are you getting Kemet? They say we're getting it from the hieroglyphics. I said the hieroglyphics have never been deciphered. So then the next argument, they say, well, Kemet. It means the black land. It's coming from.
Okay, well, Professor, can we just leave
Professor,
it there?
We'll have to leave it there.
Pick up that point next week sometime.
Superb.
Okay.
And again, it'd be interesting to find out who named Egypt Kemet, and where did the word Egypt come from. But we can deal with that again next week. Now, I'm back here this Wednesday, folks. I'll be talking to one of the leading scholars of African-centered history, Ashra Kwesi, this Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Do not miss that show. It is a must. Brother Pilot, I want to say thank you very much.
Yeah, and I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to Professor Williams
as well.
Professor Williams for really,
Okay, so thank you, Professor, as well.
Okay, and thank you, Sister Ancobia.
Yes, thank you. Okay, now we're just about to end the show, as I say. Good night, folks. Good night. Thank you all for tuning in.
Reasoning Empowerment for the Community with Ancobia.